Welcome to the Know. I'm Ashley.
I'm John.
Yeah, if you've been dying to play that still untitled Star Wars project from EA's Visceral Studios, or well, anything from that developer at all anytime soon, it's gonna be tough because EA is closing them down and delaying that Star Wars game they've been talking about for years and totally redesigning it.
Yep, we're just as surprised as you are.
Kinda came as a shock.
Yeah, it kind of leaves all kinds of questions about the status of the game, EA Star Wars contract, all the major talent at Visceral, and well, what the hell really just happened?
Yeah, this news comes straight from EA's statement by studio executive Patrick Soderlund. Now, after explaining that the nature of video games are changing throughout the industry and so on and so on, that EA always wants to stay at the forefront of creating experiences that our players want to play, well, as such, it's time to cancel those experiences.
Yeah, Soderlund wrote that the Visceral Star Wars game is now going to undergo a major shift in its direction. More on that in a second, which is going to cause some changes. Soderlund said, our Visceral studio will be ramping down and closing, and we're in the midst of shifting as many of the team as possible to other projects and teams at EA.
He went on to say, lastly, while we had originally expected this game to launch late in our fiscal year 2019, we are now looking at a new time frame that we will announce in the future. So, not a window, nothing.
Yeah, that's like a we don't know answer. If you're wondering who's going to be, developing the game now that the studio is closing.
Probably a lot of people wondering that.
That's going to be a development team from EA, from across EA Worldwide Studios, led by a team from EA Vancouver that has already been working on the project. If you're wondering what else EA Vancouver has worked on in the past, they've done some sports games?
Yep, specifically EA Vancouver. They work on EA's FIFA games, NHL. They've done some stuff for the NBA line, SSX. The outliers into more traditional genres kind of include games like Need for Speed High Stakes and Medal of Honor Heroes 2.
That all makes total sense.
So the news of the delay is also going to be a pretty huge bummer to people who've been waiting to play this game. It's now being moved back from 2019 to no one knows when, which is a little bit concerning.
Yeah, which could put EA into some interesting territory contract-wise. The decade-long exclusive contract for the Star Wars license was announced in 2013. So we've got until roughly 2023.
That's math.
Delaying from the end of 2019 into some undefined future date starts pushing the game up against the deadline in which they have the right to keep making Star Wars games. The big concern there being, it's already getting a big delay. So what happens if the sports studio struggles with the project and it needs another one? Which,
considering that they are starting from more or less scratch with a couple of assets, maybe?
They know it's Star Wars. That's a start.
True, you know the world that you're working in.
The question is, will they have to rush the project out regardless of whether it's finished? Do they get an extension? Are they already in talks about renewing the license with Disney?
So many questions. But the biggest question of all, at least that's immediately applicable to gamers, is the game kind of doomed?
Maybe.
I mean, it's not in a good spot.
No, it's worrying at the very least. Right now, it sounds like they're doing a major overhaul to what it was supposed to be. Soderlund said in his statement that there will be a significant change to the game and that they are changing it to be a broader experience that allows for more variety and player agency, leaning into the capabilities of our Frostbite engine and reimagining central elements of the game to give players a Star Wars adventure of greater depth and breadth to explore.
Obviously, that's a very vague, very broad description.
Yeah.
It's not like we knew a lot about the game before, but given the talent on it, like Uncharted's Amy Hennig, the directions seem to be linear, story-driven, Uncharted-ish kind of game. There were some rumors that it could potentially be an open-world adventure of some sort, but nothing confirmed. Now, though, sounds like EA wants it to be something kind of open-ended, more player choice, more things to do, which worked out really well for their most recent attempt at that, Mass Effect Andromeda.
I'm sensing some sarcasm in that last bit there. Pretty much, in Soderlund's announcement, he did say that the game was shaping up to be a story-based linear adventure game.
Right. Isn't that exactly the kind of experience Amy Hennig specialized in with the Uncharted games? What fans of her work would want more of? I guess that's why I'm sort of confused by the move overall.
Sure, but where's the ongoing money in a game that people play and enjoy once? Where's the opportunity for games as a service?
Right. Yeah.
Where are the loot boxes?
Right. Sounds like a joke, but seems like whatever they're envisioning is as a successful game falls under more of a games as a service umbrella. Although exactly what that's going to look like for a single player game like this is anybody's guess. We reached out to EA about why the game was being redesigned, and they told us this. Throughout the development process, we have been testing the game concept with players, listening to the feedback about what and how they want to play, and closely tracking fundamental shifts in the marketplace. It has become clear that to deliver an experience that players will want to come back to and enjoy for a long time to come, we needed to pivot the design. We will maintain these stunning visuals, authenticity in the Star Wars universe, and focus on bringing a Star Wars story to life.
In an email to employees that was reported by Kotaku, Soderlund added, a development team from across worldwide studios will take over development of Ragtag, led by the EA Vancouver team that has already been working on the project. Steve Anthony will lead this team, and we will use much of the work that has been done to date by Visceral. The assets of Ragtag that have already been built will be the foundation of this new game.
So, the assets.
Star Wars.
It sounds like pretty much everything else.
We made lightsabers. We're still going to use the lightsabers we made.
Well, to be fair, the lightsabers are probably pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Now, it's kind of difficult to speculate about what might have gone wrong here to lead to the game being completely reworked and Visceral shutting down. For whatever reason, it sounds like EA's put off by the idea of a traditional single-player game, although we've had a few this year that have all sold quite well. It could be that they're identifying trends in the industry and they're projecting that by this time the game was supposed to come out in 2019, the industry might have left it behind.
Yeah, there's also the possibility that the game just wasn't all that fun.
That happens.
Or good.
It can happen.
Sometimes that happens with games in development. They throw all the ingredients together and the spark just isn't there. That led to more than its fair share of canceled games in the past. Blizzard comes to mind because they've cut a number of projects for that reason.
And games that sounded promising when you list them out, but they just didn't come together.
Yeah, Project Titan and StarCraft Ghost, to name a few painful cancellations.
Whatever the case, this explains why we haven't really heard a lot about the game this year. It was a notable no-show at E3. We did get that teaser, that was about it. I guess now we know the reason for that. But still, some details about the plot have allegedly, because they're, well, not confirmed, leaked in the past.
The game supposedly took place between the events of A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and starred Dodger, a rogue-ish character from Alderaan on the run from the Empire. The game centers around him trying to get his name off the Alderaan survivors list, which sees him working for Jabba the Hutt on Tatooine. He eventually learns some shocking truths about the Empire's plans, probably that they're building a second Death Star, and has to confront it head on.
But then, you know, who knows how much of that's legit, how much, if it was, will carry through the rework, what's gonna be about now. There's just no telling how much they're gonna throw away, which is another thing that's so surprising about this. As far as we know, work's been happening since like 2013, which is when the game was revealed to be in production.
And part of the hype about it was how much talent they've poured into this game. Visceral was led by Jade Raymond, a very well-regarded executive who founded EA's Motive Studios and Ubisoft Toronto before that. Kim Swift, who worked on Portal and Left 4 Dead, was also involved in the game. So is Amy Hennig, a longtime director of the Uncharted series.
So yeah, pretty impressive lineup of talent, and that's apparently all gone now, or at the very least being shuffled around in the EA family. No idea what most of the developers are going to be doing in light of this announcement.
Of course, EA has a long history of shutting down studios, so Visceral is hardly the first. Back in 2009, EA shut down Pandemic Studios, which made the first 2 Star Wars Battlefront games. About 200 people lost their jobs in that case.
Yeah, a little more recently, and as recently as just this year, BioWare Montreal, which made Mass Effect Andromeda, was merged into another company, EA Motive, after Mass Effect Andromeda's buggy release on burned fans of that franchise. But not just those 2 companies. EA also bought and shut down Maxis, Mythic, Bullfrog, Westwood, Phenomic, Black Box, Origin Systems, Playfish. It's a long list.
They got some names there.
And they just added another one.
Yeah, and while we don't know why the Visceral closure is happening exactly, lots of developers in the past have criticized EA's business practices, calling them not the greatest to work for.
Yes, you could put it that way.
nicely. In a recent interview, CEO Ian Bell of Slightly Mad Studios, which makes Project Cars, claimed that EA tried to kill his studio after it canceled the game it was working on, Need for Speed Shift 3, and then tried to hire away its employees. Bell called them assholes and corporate monsters.
Visceral Star Wars also joins another infamous list. Star Wars games, not just EA games where the studio got shut down. Also, Star Wars games that got canceled before they ever saw the light of day. Remember Battle of the Sith Lords? The sequel to Republic Commando? Do you remember either of those games? Yeah, that's because they never happened.
That would make sense. Of course, there was Battlefront 3, which was killed by LucasArts, and Proteus, a console-based MMO that was canceled within 6 months of development. And then Knights of the Old Republic 3 was also canceled and wrapped into what would become Star Wars The Old Republic.
But then there was also the more mature, gritty Star Wars 1313 that Disney and LucasArts pulled the plug on in 2013.
There's a lot of would have been Star Wars games out there.
Yeah, it's a long list. A lot of Star Wars games that disappeared.
If that list doesn't make it too obvious, apparently Star Wars games are a bit hard to work on. It's probably a combination of a lot of factors, but there are way more expectations put on games from a franchise that's this big, and a lot more things that can go wrong because of it. Add all of that to EA's penchant for closing down studios, and it's not exactly a great match.
Which is another reason why this is such a bad break for Visceral Studios. They were a talented studio, and they made Dead Space, for crying out loud, with a lot of promise, and found themselves in the challenging position of working on a Star Wars game, which sounds great until you have to deal with all the stakeholders on a property like that. Then, from all outward appearances, having the rug pulled out from under them. No word yet on whether there are any staff layoffs taking place. We did ask EA about it, and they told us they are in the midst of shifting the Visceral team to other projects and studios at EA. However, that doesn't mean there won't be casualties.
Yeah, hopefully they can find some good work. Already members of Motive are tweeting out for referrals since the studio is hiring tons of positions for its new action-based IP. Although who knows if they'll want to roll the dice and work at another EA studio after all this.
Yeah, other developers, in case they don't, are also stepping forward to snap up Visceral talent, including like Sledgehammer Games, 2K, several more.
We might not ever know the full story of what went down here, but you can bet we'll probably hear some more in the coming weeks.
Now, as for what this means for the Star Wars game, what its new direction is going to be, what the heck we're likely to see it again, that's probably going to take quite a bit longer. Well, what do you guys think of EA shutting down Visceral Studios, gutting the Star Wars game, delaying it? Let us know in the comments.
For future updates on the roller coaster of emotion surrounding EA games, remember to like this video, and if you're new around here, subscribe to the Now.
We are now looking at a new time frame that we will announce.
And then Knights of the Old Republic 3 was also canceled and wrapped into what could become Star Wars The Old Republic.
Well, and then there was what would become.
We might not know, but we might not ever know the full story. I can say all that correctly this time.